So, as I was mentioning earlier, this sort of second article is about words and phrases to avoid when discussing your research. And this doesn't just apply to getting a PhD or a master's or even a bachelor's degree, it happens at all levels. So, some of the ideas that they're coming from are going to be relative to your research paper. So, you really want to pay attention to some of these ideas, right? And some of them are going to overlap on things that I've already mentioned, right? So let's start with the first one here. Avoid making broad generalizations. Be careful in using every words like all, always, must, never, and every. If you go back to the previous cliche list, I put must as one of them. And all, of course, is another one. And in place of these words, you want to use most. Instead of saying all, say most people believe that a border is essential for security, or that most people believe that we need immigration reform. It makes a huge difference because, again, when you make broad generalizations, sometimes they can appear negative. Oh, all people are at fault and you're the only one that's right? So you kind of get the idea, right? You want to kind of avoid that. Avoid statements a fact unless documented by a peer-reviewed source. Yes. And also keep in mind that when you're doing an argument, fact is not going to be the best way to analyze things, right? And here's some of my favorite that I just mentioned in the last video. Avoid words like clearly and obviously. What is clear and obvious to one reader is not to another. Borders are an important part of our world. Other people may say, well, I don't think so. I think other things are more important, right? So finding the oscillation between the differences between these two ideas is very important. Again, they say avoid declarative statements. So instead of saying the proposed study will show, and I see students do this more often in saying my paper will argue, or I will argue, I will write about, right? Instead of saying that, the proposed study may provide evidence regarding whether left-handed people live shorter lives than people who are right-handed. Hope not. All right. And avoid redundancy. Do not repeat phrases or paragraphs in the same chapter and try to paraphrase information needed from a prior chapter. So this also goes into words that are redundant and phrases that are redundant. The number one example I can think of is in my opinion, I believe, I think. These are three examples I can think of. And the reason why you want to avoid saying these words is because it's already implied anything that is not your idea, you will paraphrase it and give the citation, and you're going to get direct quotes, so that way I know when you put them in quotation marks or put it in block quote format, I know exactly what it is that you're trying to do, right? I know these aren't going to be your words. I know these aren't going to be your opinions. You didn't come up with them. Someone else did, right? So keep that in mind. Instead of saying, I think, put the citation down instead. Makes it a lot easier. And this is a good one. Again, one of the things I find interesting as a difference between creative writing and academic writing is that in creative writing, you want to put it was an amazing day, it was an extraordinary event, it was an outstanding model, it was an incredible feat of human ingenuity, right? These are great words to use when you're writing a story or making a review about a story and you want to give certain words that you think will make it sound amazing. However, in academic writing, you want to avoid that. Instead, you want to use more descriptive verbs. So instead of describing the amazing day, the extraordinary event, you want to say they argued that this event was critical to someone's success, right? And it's the verb at the beginning that makes the difference. So write that down. It is the verb, the action that makes the difference. Okay. And again, sometimes, and this is very true of a lot of essay writing, try to avoid emotional language or things that may appear to kind of go outside of that objective point of view. So when you come up with a very strong opinion, rather than saying, this is the correct answer, you need to listen to me, borders are bad, borders are good, here's why, this happened, those people, they're bad, right? Instead of kind of going straight and attacking, you want to say, there have been people who have created issues within society that has made borders an even greater issue now than they were before or previously. Again, the idea is that you're not talking just about these people or those people. You always want to keep it in scope of your topic, which are borders and boundaries. This is another one. A lot of people like to use these ly words. So if you like using ly words, these are typically adverbs which describe a noun. Describe a noun. They describe a verb. So it was really fun. It was extremely busy. Absolutely, amazingly, stupendously cool. You probably wouldn't use that in an academic essay. You might use it in the way that you speak out loud, but you're not going to use it for an academic essay, right? These are not things you would expect a scientist to say if he was talking about how he created a new design.